Hey guys, today we'll be making a South African traditional recipe called bubble tea. The ingredients we need are white bread, eggs, milk, onion, garlic, bay leaves, curry powder, dried herbs, and ground beef. South African food reflects the various traditions embodied in the communities living in the country. Bubble tea, a South African traditional food, is consisting of spiced mincemeat baked with an egg-based topping. A South African writer and gourmet named C. Louis Lippo wrote that the recipe was known in Europe in the 17th century. The first step is chopping the onions and garlic. Roughly chopped is fine. Pour the milk into a plate and be sure to soak the breads in milk completely. You can choose whatever bread you like. We're now going to put 2 teaspoons of vegetable oil into the pan. Then we add the diced onion and garlic into it. Stir them with medium heat. Once the onions are coated or become soft, put the ground beef in it and cook for a few minutes. Then we add some curry powder. Add some salt and pepper for seasoning. For this recipe, you can add some raisins or almonds, depends on your own taste. Squeeze the milk from the bread and tear the bread into smaller pieces. Try to keep the milk in the bread as little as possible. Now we're going to put the bread into the pan and cook it for a while. I add more salt in it because I wanted to have a strong taste. Put this into a baking tray. Now we're gonna make the top part. Pour some milk into a container. Add 2 eggs in it and mix them together. Now we're gonna gently pour the mixture on the top of the tray. The yellow dots are the oil. It does not influence the taste. Then we add some bay leaves for decoration. Put the bubble tea into the oven and cook it for 30 minutes. And now we're done. Let's try it. I actually like the top better because I feel like it tastes like pudding. And for the bottom part, I need to add more salt in it. The bobotie is a really easy recipe and you can serve it with bread or rice. Thank you for watching.
Couscous is a dish composed of the eponymous carbohydrate, varying meats and/or vegetables, and plenty of spices. This dish is primarily found to be eaten in North Africa, the Middle East, and even some Mediterranean regions. Its origin is suspected to be in northern Africa, although it is difficult to pinpoint a more precise location. The nomadic Berber people of about 2000 BCE is one speculated group to be the inventors of this meal. Descendants of the Berber people, the Maghreb, are another estimated creator of the dish. Nevertheless, the migratory tendencies of the people of these times are responsible for the beginning of this dish's spread and popularity. The meal spread around the same way as technologies or religion would spread, through travel and trade. Currently, we see countries such as Libya, Algeria, and especially Morocco to be some of the main producers of this dish. That is to say, the meal is culturally ingrained into some of these countries. I prepared a Moroccan-style couscous, with the main ingredients being chicken, carrots, potatoes, parsnips, ginger, turmeric, and of course, couscous. Clearly, there is no one way to prepare the dish. Styles can vary from household to household, region to region, and country to country. The ingredients used in any version of couscous naturally depend on what resources are available in an area. For example, one is more likely to find a fish-based couscous in coastal regions rather than inland. Certain vegetables may not grow everywhere as well. For example, one is more likely to have a couscous with potatoes in sub-Saharan regions of Africa rather than in the desert. Some differences are based even on preferences. Which spices go better with what meat? A family favorite vegetable? Or a more time-friendly way to prepare the couscous itself. Continuing the universal trends of travel and trade has increased this dish's spread, introducing it to distant countries and continents. An example of advertisement of this dish, very early, coming from the 13th century, are references and recipes for couscous in Arab cookbooks. The printing and distribution of these books aided in the popularity of couscous, which would only continue to grow. Today, we see couscous as an ethnic food, which can be likely found as a special in restaurants or as a quote-unquote easy prep meal. However, a plate of authentic couscous can take up to hours at a time to prepare. Despite common belief, couscous is not a grain, but it is closer to a pasta. A single piece of couscous is a very small ball of steamed semolina flour, which requires the harvesting and milling of said grain. The preparation of couscous itself is enough of a hint for historians to infer that the dish cannot be older than around 6000 BCE, due to the technologies required to make it. Couscous can be steamed, boiled, or even baked, and it is usually salted and spiced as it cooks. Meanwhile, the meat or broth are prepared, as well as numerous vegetables, and sometimes a stew or tafaya. Usually, many hands help in the preparation of the meal, considering the number of sections required for the finished delicious product. In Morocco specifically, it is a tradition to eat couscous on Fridays. Some restaurants will only serve the dish on said day. With work and schools letting out earlier on the holy day of the religion of the state, Islam, families are enabled to gather, prepare, and to eat the meal together in the style of this tradition, which has been continuously passed on. In more ways than one, couscous is a dish which brings people together. On one hand, we have families gathering to eat a nourishing, filling, scrumptious meal. On the other hand, there is a story. Algeria announced in 2016 their plans to grant couscous an intangible cultural heritage status, claiming the dish as a staple for the country. Naturally, other nations that have a cultural history with this dish, such as Morocco, were upset by this announcement. However, instead of allowing the countries to increase their levels of antagonism between one another, delegates from Morocco, Algeria, Tunisia, and Mauritania worked together and resolved this issue with a joint claim to this dish, while also aiding the countries in their journeys to more peaceful relationships with each other. One thing I have learned while preparing this dish is that timing is everything. Cooking the several types of vegetables alongside the chicken and couscous required very rough estimates on how long they needed to be on the stove. I may have been incorrect in my estimates. A challenge I faced while cooking pertained to my limited space as well as my lack of experience in the kitchen. Despite all, the finished product came out great, and it was really fun to make. I suggest other people to try to make this recipe, or find their own, and to enjoy this delicious meal. Lastly, of course, would come the plating of the food. First, the couscous is put onto the plate or bowl, and it is sculpted into a bowl-like form capable of holding the rest. Then, the main vegetables are placed in the divot of the bowl, topped by the broth, if there is any. Any side vegetables, like onions or chickpeas, are predictably put on the side of the couscous mound. On top, the meat is placed, sometimes with an additional layer of broth, and then any last-minute seasonings.
Hello, this is Lisa, and in this part, you will see me trying to make fufu while I'll tell you about this popular staple food in West and Central Africa. This is what fufu looks like. It is smooth, sticky, and does not have a strong flavor. It is usually eaten with stew, soup, or other dishes. In this way, it is like rice or sticky rice cake, I think. There are many choices of ingredients to make fufu, like cassava, yam, black yam, semolina, and cornmeal. I tried at first to make the traditional one, the cassava fufu, in a traditional way. It is usually mixed with plantain, but since I wasn't able to get plantain, I'm using only frozen cassava that I bought online. And what you are seeing now is actually a failure. Although I spent a few hours and was quite tired making it, the fufu turned out very lumpy and not sticky at all. And I'm not sure why. The lumpy fufu I made was fried and it was actually quite good.
And next, I decided to try again with cassava flour that I bought online. Now let me tell you more about fufu. It is considered that the fufu originated in Ghana after the Portuguese traders introduced cassava to Africa in the 16th century. Now fufu is a common staple food in West and Central Africa, like Liberia, Sierra Leone, Nigeria, and so on. It is as common as bread and milk in the United States and can be seen everywhere at the market. Making fufu itself is an important and enjoyable activity in Ghana. If you want to make it in a traditional way like I was trying to do, it requires a lot of effort and time to smash and pound the ingredients until it's evenly smooth and sticky. This is how fufu is made traditionally with a mortar and a pestle. But people like this laborious and sweaty activity in Ghana because fufu is delicious and worth all the toil. For some people, Sundays are the best days they always look forward to because their families make fufu together on this day off. In rural areas, making fufu is a daily activity. As I mentioned before, making fufu is laborious and it is also a skill. It requires repeatedly thrusting the pestle into the mortar. I tried with a very small pestle and I felt my muscles started to sore after 10 minutes. Usually there are two people making fufu together. While a person lifts the pestle up and down, the other person, called the moderator, needs to roll the dough into the middle of the mortar with a bare hand. In order not to get the hand smashed, teamwork and following the rhythm is very important. Making fufu can also be done alone, often by a skillful person who has mastered both pounding and moderating. Not me, obviously. There are also occasions where several people, like 4 or 5, pound the fufu in a huge mortar at the same time. In this case, there will be no moderator. By the way, my attempt to make cassava fufu with cassava flour also failed, probably because the flour was not for making fufu. I was quite disappointed and I gave up cassava. Instead, I tried with cornmeal. Back to pounding fufu, you could know the stance of the fufu pounder by their relationship with the moderator. A junior pounder must stand and hold the pestle with both hands, while a senior pounder could sit and hold the pestle with one hand if he wants to. There are a set of rules and myths about the mortar. It cannot be bathed outside and touched by dew. You cannot wash your face using the water collected from the mortar, or you will see a ghost. And you cannot pound an empty mortar because it is considered the same as pounding your mother's breasts. In some communities, it is also thought that people who do not eat fufu have different shapes of mouths and lips. Renting houses is also associated with pounding fufu. People rent houses based on the fact that they are allowed to pound. Some people prefer to live downstairs because some landlords do not allow or restrict the time frame of pounding upstairs. There are also 3 rules when it comes to eating fufu. Although some people may have fufu with other dishes like stew or sauce or alone, the tradition is to have it with soup. Secondly, fufu must be swallowed without chewing. At last, you must eat fufu with your fingers. Fufu has such a high status in Africans' lives that they have a folklore about it and the creation of the world. According to the myth, the world was originally very close to God. You could touch the clouds in the sky, and God made the world always peaceful with no disasters. But one day, man discovered the taste of fufu and could not stop pounding and eating it. Each time the pestle was raised, they pushed the clouds away from the earth. Heaven became farther and farther away from the man's world, and that's how today's world is formed. That's all I want to tell you about fufu, and now let me tell you more about my experience of making it. I realized that the right ingredients are so important, and where I live is not a suitable place to make African dishes like fufu because I couldn't get the ingredients that I wanted. Although I failed at my first attempt, I experienced the toil needed to make fufu successfully. It is tiring but fun, and I really want to try authentic cassava and plantain fufu now. Making other kinds of fufu where you need to add water is not easy either, even if you have YouTube to guide you. I think it really needs experience to know how much water to add, how sticky you want it to be, even though it seems easy. Reading several articles about fufu, I can feel that it is a very important part of the diet in parts of Africa and people love it. My mom said the flavor was too bland for her and she wanted to be sweeter. But I like the fufu very much. It tastes like corn slightly and it is very filling. I will definitely make it some other day for my breakfast, and I also recommend you to make it someday.